When the floodwaters receded, Jamaica's hills told a different kind of story. Hurricane Melissa had passed, but the silence it left behind was not peace. It was the sound of secrets sinking beneath the mud. Authorities called it recovery. Locals called it survival. But to those who had seen what happened inside the shelters, it was something else entirely, a cover-up. In the early hours after the shelter attack, the police perimeter at the old parish gym was thin. Officers were tired, underpaid, and frightened, not just of looters, but of the storm's ghosts, diseases, darkness, and rumors. Among the missing was Lorraine Grant, a local Red Cross volunteer who had tried to document the chaos. Her last known footage, retrieved from a cracked phone, showed terrified women screaming, masked men breaking through the shelter doors, and an unmarked white van idling outside in the rain. The video vanished before investigators could upload it. The file had been wiped remotely. Lorraine's name joined a growing list of the disappeared. Enter Detective Ruddock, a mid-career officer transferred from Kingston. He was known for his quiet stubbornness, a man who never sought promotion, only patterns. Ruddock had seen storms before. He'd seen communities rebuild faster than governments, and he'd seen how chaos gave criminals their best disguise. But Hurricane Melissa was different. It felt choreographed. He reviewed witness statements. Men in relief uniforms, but the logo was wrong. They spoke with foreign accents. They didn't steal food. They took people. At first it sounded like hysteria. Then a missing persons list from the coastal shelters revealed something chilling. Many victims were young women and teenage boys, all last seen near trucks marked with falsified relief insignias. Ruddock traced the supply routes. 3 trucks had gone missing. One was recovered, empty, burnt. Another was found at the harbor, stripped for parts. The third, the one driven by a volunteer named Maya, was never seen again. While the island cleaned its wounds, an invisible network was moving offshore. In the shadows of international aid, stolen goods, counterfeit fuel, and trafficked humans were traded like commodities. From Jamaica to the Cayman corridor, then to Panama. The chaos of Melissa had created a perfect storm, not of wind and rain, but of opportunity. The media moved on. The politicians smiled for cameras. But for those who lost someone in the night, the storm had never ended. Ruddock's investigation was unofficial. His superiors told him to drop it. They said focus on looting, not conspiracy. But he knew the truth. Corruption didn't vanish with the rain. It just moved to higher ground. The clue came from an unlikely source. A fisherman from St. Mary who found a waterproof container washed ashore, half buried in seaweed. Inside were torn documents, a satellite phone, and a coded ledger listing shipments dated the week after the hurricane. Among the entries, Melissa 0311, units cleared via Ocho Rios dock. Ruddock took the phone to a journalist friend, Marcia Velez, who specialized in cross-Caribbean corruption stories. She decrypted the GPS logs. Coordinates traced to a small airstrip near Montego Bay, where private planes landed under the guise of relief transport. Each flight listed medical evacuations. None were registered with the Ministry of Health. In disasters, paperwork is chaos. That's where crime thrives, hidden between forms in the fog of urgency. Ruddock and Marcia followed the paper trail to an NGO front operating out of Miami, officially called Relief Bridge International. The name appeared on every manifest. Their board of directors included former contractors, politicians, and 2 names linked to offshore accounts in Belize. Something bigger than looting was happening. In the documentary sequence that follows, interviews roll in grainy black and white. A mother describes how her teenage daughter vanished after volunteering at a food center. A dock worker confesses to being paid in US dollars to load medical crates that were far too heavy for medicine. A survivor whispers about seeing people sedated inside those crates before they were sealed. The footage fades to static. For many, the storm was an act of God. For others, it was an act of man. Ruddock's investigation attracts attention. Anonymous messages begin arriving, voice notes distorted, warning him to stop. His apartment is searched, his files vanish, but by then he already had backups. Marcia had sent copies to contacts in Florida and London. When she flew to Miami to verify the NGO's registration, she discovered something shocking. Relief Bridge International had ceased to exist 2 years before Hurricane Melissa. Its address was a rented mailbox. Its director, a man named Felix Mendez, had disappeared from record, but a person using that name was sighted in Panama days after the storm. A smuggler's trail was forming, one that began in disaster and ended in a global black market. The breakthrough came not from officials, but from a survivor, a 17-year-old girl named Amina, rescued by fishermen off the coast of Haiti weeks later. Weak, dehydrated, and traumatized, she told her story in fragments. She remembered being told she'd be taken to a safe shelter. She remembered being locked in a van, then darkness. When she woke, she was in a shipping container with other captives, bound for the next island. She escaped when the container door cracked during a stormy crossing. The smugglers panicked and abandoned the barge. Ruddock listened to her testimony in disbelief. The missing relief trucks weren't just stolen. They were part of a trafficking route disguised as humanitarian aid. By the time Ruddock's findings reached Interpol, the story had grown beyond one island. Similar patterns appeared after typhoons in the Philippines, floods in Honduras, earthquakes in Turkey. Election victory theft in Cameroon and Tanzania, Boko Haram in Nigeria. Disaster opened doors, and men with money and no conscience walked through them. The same shell companies, the same offshore accounts, the same network of false NGOs. Ruddock had uncovered a global system, but now he was a target inside it. As Ruddock prepared to hand over evidence to a UN liaison, his vehicle was rammed on a dark mountain road. He survived, barely. His driver did not. His laptop and phone were taken. The attackers vanished into the fog. Meanwhile, Marcia's Miami contact, the one tracing Relief Bridge financial records, went missing hours before a scheduled interview. Surveillance footage showed 2 men in maintenance uniforms entering his apartment. They left carrying boxes. When truth threatens profit, silence becomes a business. Knowing time was running out, Ruddock and Marcia compiled a 22-minute expose and uploaded it anonymously to international press servers. It included the survivors' testimony, the falsified relief manifests, and footage of the smuggling airstrip. Within hours, the video went viral. Major networks picked it up. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Melissa cover-up, hashtag storm trafficking, hashtag aid or abuse. Governments issued statements. Investigations were promised, but those who knew the system doubted justice would be swift. The broadcast ended with Ruddock's voice. The storm took lives. The silence took more. Protests erupted outside government buildings. Relief Bridge's supposed founders denied everything. Interpol announced a task force, but as quickly as the outrage rose, it faded. The world moved on to the next disaster. Ruddock was reassigned. Marcia received death threats. Amina was placed in protective custody and later relocated. But somewhere in a storage yard near Montego Bay, police discovered a shipping container buried under debris. Inside were identification cards, personal effects, and children's clothes. The air inside was stale, the silence heavier than the storm itself. Weeks later, Ruddock received a package with no return address. Inside, a single flash drive and a piece of paper that read, "You stopped one trail." There are others. The drive contained coordinates: Caribbean, Central America, Eastern Europe, each marked a disaster zone, each followed by unexplained disappearances. In the wake of every storm, heroes emerge, but so do hunters. For every hand that gives food, another hand counts profit. For every story of survival, there are 100 that never reach the news. Hurricane Melissa was more than a natural disaster. It was a mirror reflecting what humanity becomes when the lights go out. Some rebuild, some disappear, and some follow the trail, no matter where it leads. This is TrueShadowsReel, the authentic channel where criminal activities are traced to their shadows.